Democrats are finally turning the tables on Donald Trump and MAGA on the Trump and MAGA turf. Democrats going on state regime media, which calls itself Fox, calling out Donald Trump, calling out Maria Bartiromo, calling out the Trump propagandists. No one's doing it right now as good as Ro Khanna, or certainly he's one of the top people who are going on state regime media and calling out Fox. Superb job here. Democratic Congress member Ro Khanna perfectly calls out Maria Bartiromo with receipts, with facts about just how bad Donald Trump has been for the economy and all the jobs that Donald Trump has cost our country. Here, play this clip.
And I got to say, this deal seems a lot better than the horrendous Obama deal, because Obama allowed Iran to have access to $100+ billion. Let's not forget all that cash, cold cash that was on a plane headed to Iran, which, what did they do with that money, Congressman? They used that money to build up their ballistic weapons and support terrorist proxies. Am I wrong?
Well, he is a cruel, criminal, and mentally unstable man. And Duty to Warn was a book that came out when he was first in office. Psychiatrists across the country who don't ever really diagnose people that they don't serve personally came together and made a book, Duty to Warn, to tell the world what a narcissistic, mentally ill person he is.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the video. We put a lot of time into research, fact-checking, and making sure every story we bring you is informative and meaningful. As an independent channel, your support truly keeps this work going. So if you find value in our reporting, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and help us reach more people with stories that matter. Your support means a lot, and it allows us to keep giving our best every single day. For nearly 20 years, one woman has been living rent-free in Donald Trump's head, and she knows it. He's the most powerful man on the planet. He's got a country to run, wars to manage, a whole world demanding his attention. And he still can't stop swinging at a comedian he got into a fight with on a daytime talk show back in 2006, Rosie O'Donnell, the woman Donald Trump cannot quit. So let's go back to where it started, because the origin tells you everything. December 2006, Trump, who owned the Miss USA pageant at the time, held a press conference about the reigning Miss USA, Tara Conner, who'd gotten caught up in accusations of drinking and drug use.
Maria, first of all, the president has lost 72,000 manufacturing jobs under his watch. So I wish you were right, because his rhetoric was about rebuilding Ohio, rebuilding Pennsylvania, but he has resisted having an industrial investment bank to actually support American manufacturers that would make things that we're currently importing.
No, I don't agree with that. That's not true.
On the China committee. Let me just finish. I mean, it's true he hasn't put an industrial investment bank. It's true that he's lost 70,000 manufacturing jobs. I'm the top Democrat on the China committee. We've been urging him to do a CHIPS Act for American pharmaceutical key starting material. He hasn't done that. Yes, he's attracted a lot of foreign direct investment that's gone to tech companies in my district. But what about the heartland and the building up of places that were deindustrialized? That simply hasn't happened. It hasn't happened in Vice President Vance's hometown of Middleton, Ohio. But on
then you have Democratic Congress member Ro Khanna on Maria Bartiromo perfectly making the case why Donald Trump's memorandum of understanding, whatever you even want to call it, is far inferior, far weaker, far worse than former President Obama's JCPOA. As Aaron Rupert said, note that Bartiromo acknowledges he's making important points and good ones. She even can't handle what Ro Khanna does right here. Play this clip.
You and your colleagues just want to upend this president's agenda. Is that what's happening right now with this MOU with Iran?
He's a very unwell man.
Yeah, I agree.
In many ways, physically and mentally. The president's saying that I'm a threat to humanity.
Yeah.
That's the president of the United States.
Saying that, yeah.
No, when our feud started some 20-something years ago, he was a joke of a reality show guy that nobody respected or took seriously. He is a very unwell man.
Yeah, I agree.
In many ways, physically and mentally.
And instead of stripping her crown, Trump made a big show of standing beside her, forgiving her, sending her to rehab, a whole press conference. Very magnanimous, very on camera. And over on The View, Rosie O'Donnell looked at that and called it exactly what she thought it was. Self-serving theatre. She compared him live on national television to a snake oil salesman. She said he wasn't the self-made man he pretended to be, pointed out he'd gone bankrupt, pointed out the businesses that failed, and then she went for the throat, the moral throat. This man, she said, is positioning himself as a moral authority for 20-year-olds. The guy who left his first wife after an affair, left his second wife after an affair. That guy is the moral compass? Donald, she said, sit and spin. That's the exposure, and here's what makes it land. She wasn't wrong and she wasn't vague. She just said out loud, on live TV, the things polite people only whispered.
No, I actually support the agreement and bringing the war to an end. I have always supported bringing the war to an end. I will say, though, that this agreement is not as good as what the JCPOA was. And let me just give you 3 factual reasons. First, under the JCPOA, 97% of the enriched uranium was removed from Iran. Under this agreement, it simply dilutes it. Second, the JCPOA had the Security Council resolution as a force of law with intrusive IAEA inspections. That still has not been achieved. And most problematically, we're going to be on the hook to raise $300 billion for Iran's economic development and reconstruction. Not U.S. taxpayer money, but raising that money. Why aren't we focused on the economic development and reconstruction of Middleton, Ohio, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, or putting $300 billion to be raised for childcare or healthcare for Americans?
You know, he has been a mystery to me from the moment I was conscious of him as a young child, when all his planes were getting repossessed off the runways at LaGuardia, when he was trying to sell steaks and cologne. And, you know, because, you know, Warren Buffett always does that, right? All the billionaires do that. No, he's the only one because he's a con man. That's the bottom line.
That the self-made billionaire image was a sales job. That the moral authority pose was a joke given his own history. In 2006, when a lot of the country still saw Trump as a charming reality TV businessman, Rosie O'Donnell looked at the camera and called him a con. She was early. And how did the future president of the United States respond to being called out by a talk show host? He went nuts. Immediately. He told People magazine she was a woman out of control. He called her a real loser. And then he said the thing that should have told everyone, right then, exactly who they were dealing with. He didn't argue the substance.
Americans.
Well, all very important points and good ones. Let me just say that President Trump has made the comment that at some point in the future, when things calm down, the U.S. will go back into Iran, get that uranium, destroy that uranium, whether destroyed in Iran or in America or somewhere else. They are planning on getting that.
That's what happens. You go on state regime media, loaded with the facts, as Congressmember Khanna does, and he's bringing the heat right here. And then he says to Maria Bartiromo, and what is it that you want to do with women? You want all women who have changed their maiden names now as part of whatever you're trying to do for Donald Trump's voter suppression. You want all women to go and show their birth certificates when they go and they vote. What are you talking about, Maria Bartiromo? And I think he just walks her right into it, where, again, this is why Donald Trump absolutely hates Ro Khanna and wants him off Fox. But here's what Ro Khanna did with Maria Bartiromo. Let's play it.
It's the law.
I
Elections
agree.
have been lost by a couple of votes. So just to say, oh, it's not a lot, that's not an answer, sir.
People saying I'm canceling my trip to Disney, I'm canceling my Hulu, my Disney Plus. $4 billion in 4 days. Bravo, America. And this is how much power we have. And don't let them tell you.
He went after her body. My nice fat little Rosie, he sneered, and bragged he'd sue her and take lots of money. The most powerful insult a grown man could think of was to call a woman fat. That set the pattern for the next 2 decades, and the pattern never changed, and it escalated fast. Trump didn't just insult her once and move on. He kept it going for months, threatening lawsuits, doing the rounds on every show that would have him to keep the fight alive. He even tried to drag Barbara Walters into it, claiming The View's own creator had privately told him she couldn't stand Rosie. It became this whole circus.
But people have been fear-mongering that when that's not an issue in the election. And the reality is you have in cases of women, some of the in the cases of it's the cases of some people who are married that you want them, if they've changed their name, to go and have to prove that with their birth certificate to a registrar
What's
that
the
they
problem?
changed
Get
their
your
name.
birth certificate. What's the yes?
that's
the law. You can't vote if you're not an American citizen. Yes, get your birth certificate. Yes, that's exactly right.
No,
problem.
You know what?
I wanted a copy of my birth certificate. I went online. I got the birth certificate. I've got it. It took a week. No problem.
People in America are afraid of him. They're afraid to stand up to him, against him, because, and when I did on The View in 2006, I remember Joy Behar saying, you're not going to say that out there, because he had a press conference right before we were live where he had a teenager, Tara O'Connor, who was Miss Teen USA. She had kissed a girl in the Village, and they took a picture and put it on all the newspapers. And he made her do a press conference where she apologized. And it looked to me like a pimp and a prostitute. And I said that on the air. And then I proceeded to list facts, not hyperbole, just facts about who he was and what he did. Bankrupt all these times, money from his father, not a self-made man, can't quantify his riches on.
And when O'Donnell eventually left The View in 2007, after a separate explosive on-air blow-up with her conservative co-host Elizabeth Hasselbeck over the Iraq War, Trump couldn't resist gloating about that either. He inserted himself into a fight that had nothing to do with him, because any excuse to kick Rossie was an excuse he'd take. That was the tell, even back then. The man simply could not let her exist in peace. Because this didn't stay a 2006 thing, Rosie O'Donnell became Donald Trump's permanent punching bag.
I'm proud of my birth certificate because I'm a bicentennial baby born in Philadelphia, but I don't think people should have to go get their birth certificates and go to the registrar. We have a system that is a system that allows people to vote if they're citizens. And by the way, if you're not a citizen and you vote, you should have enormous penalties, consequences. I'm for making sure that
but we don't know
because
we don't have
who are voting illegally. That should be instead of putting the burden on American citizens, why don't we just make clear that we're enforcing the law? If someone, it's illegal to vote. It's a felony to vote if you're undocumented. Enforce the law. Don't have every American who was born here have to go show all their paperwork all the time.
That's the only way to do it. You have to have a citizenship proof. That's the only way to do it. I mean, that's your citizenship proof. It's not on the backs of America. It's your responsibility to ensure that you're doing it lawfully. Look.
He is a cruel, criminal, and mentally unstable man. And Duty to Warn was a book that came out when he was first in office. Psychiatrists across the country who don't ever really diagnose people that they don't serve personally came together and made a book, Duty to Warn, to tell the world what a narcissistic, mentally ill person.
The name he reaches for whenever he wants to look tough by hitting a woman. The proof came in 2015 at a Republican presidential debate in front of the entire country. The moderator, Megyn Kelly, pressed him about all the times he'd called women fat pigs, dogs, disgusting animals. And Trump's response, his big comeback on the debate stage, running for president, was 2 words: only Rosie O'Donnell. The crowd gasped. He turned a question about his cruelty toward women into a joke at the expense of one specific woman. He thought it was a winner. It was in fact a confession. And it kept going. The years rolled on, and so did the insults. Slob, loser, degenerate.
Look.
And now we know that Donald Trump's continuously been attacking Ro Khanna over with these like weird racist memes like this. Sleazebag Ro Khanna, lies, lies, lies. Democrat, don't allow this lying sleazebag on Fox. To which Congressmember Khanna goes, congratulations. Sorry for distracting your dad with this important work, Don Jr. That's because Donald Trump kept on posting things like that. And by the way, this is what Ro Khanna has continued to do over and over and over again. His last appearance with Maria Bartiromo, she had an extended crash out after Ro Khanna made the case that the rich should pay more taxes. Here, play this clip.
Story. We just did the story in New York, how Kathy Hochul is moving the threshold down. You're going to pay a pied-à-terre tax if you have a second home in New York, not if your house is worth $5 million. No. Your house is valued at $1 million. Then you're going to pay a pied-à-terre tax if you have a second home in New York. Do you agree with that?
The Constitution. You know, he's selling things from the office. He's taking money and gifts from other countries. The emoluments clause. He's breaking every law and every rule that we have in our country, and no one seems to be able to stop him.
Can you explain to me, though? I cannot believe that every Republican congressman or woman, every Republican senator is stupid.
Well, they're not stupid, but they're definitely
The same cruel hits over and over. There was the time in 2011, right after O'Donnell announced her engagement, that Trump went out of his way to say he felt sorry for her fiance's family, a gratuitous jab at a happy moment that had nothing to do with him. There was a brief flicker of decency in 2012 when O'Donnell had a heart attack and Trump actually tweeted that she should get well fast, proof he was capable of letting it go, which only makes the decades of choosing not to more telling. O'Donnell gave it right back through all of it, once calling him an orange slug. She led a protest against him outside the White House, but notice the asymmetry here because it matters. She's a comedian. Going after powerful people is her job.
Yes, because you know what I believe, Maria,
Yes.
that the economy in this country is unfair and lopsided. Too few people, including in my district, which is 20 trillion.
Pay 45% of the tax in New York. The top 1% pay the majority of taxes in this country. You know it, and I do.
Maria, let me say this, and you may agree with me. Look, you can't have a country where a few people in a few places control the majority of the nation's wealth. That's not a democracy, and it's not sustainable. In world history, you've seen revolution when that happens. In Silicon Valley, you have 19 billionaires who have 12% of the economy. So what I'm saying is, if America has been good to you, if America has been good to you, you can do good for America. You can pay a little bit of tax so people have health care, child care, a living wage.
And they do. I know plenty of billionaires. All they do is spend money. Hey, I know plenty of billionaires. All they do is spend money on health care.
Do you not believe that we have a wealth in
hospitals? They send money to education. They spend money on the arts. They send all their money, and they send all their money to all of these nonprofits. I know plenty of billionaires that do just that.
You don't.
Trump so much for this country that you guys, the mass media, is to blame. To equate him and Hillary Clinton and act as though they were the same. To equate Hunter Biden and the billion-dollar criminal crime family Trumps is ridiculous. And you guys never did a Google search to say he was bankrupt 6 times. So when I said it on
Each one was Rosie's point, made for her by him. She got out when the country, in her words, caught fire. And she's still standing across the ocean, still telling the truth, still living rent-free in the most powerful head in the world. The most powerful man on earth versus one comedian who refuses to be afraid of him. And after 19 years, she's the one who looks unbothered. That tells you everything. Hey, if you made it all the way here with me, thank you. Genuinely. You're the reason this channel exists, and I don't take a second of it for granted. We're independent here.
An obligation to pay some tax so that we can have public goods and healthcare, childcare, and education.
They pay the majority of it.
But they're not.
The rich pay the majority of the tax in this country.
Warren Buffett has said.
No, you're mixing up words. That's not true. He was talking about capital gains tax.
Let me just finish.
I know exactly what Warren Buffett said.
Why is capital gains?
He was talking about capital gains taxes. He was not talking about income taxes. I know
but
exactly
he's saying
what Warren
he pays
Buffett
less
said.
tax.
No, because
he
he's
pays
not
less
paying
tax
a
than his
salary.
teachers.
He's not getting a salary. He's not getting income.
And that's most of the billionaires.
All stock.
And that's
Because
most of the billionaires in this country. It's not fair.
You're mixing up taxes.
Right.
I know all about taxes. Don't try it. You're mixing up taxes. You got capital gains tax and you got income state tax.
It's worse every day. I feel like we're in a dystopian nightmare and no one is doing anything about it. I don't understand how he's able to get away with the things he gets away with. Breaking the law, the emoluments clause, taking bribes, blackmailing people. He's a criminal con man. And if you grew up in New York as I did, you knew this your whole life. We watched his planes get repossessed off the runway at LaGuardia. We watched him try to sell steaks in Cologne and a fake university, steal money from charities that his family can't even have a charity anymore in New York City, in the New York State, because they had stolen money from kids' cancer charities. There's no way you can look at the facts about this man and believe in him still. You have to have willful blindness. It's worse every day.
No big network on top of us, nobody deciding what we can and can't say. So if this told you something you didn't know, or made you see this feud a little differently, hit that like button. It genuinely helps us beat the algorithm. Subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. And share this with one person who needs to see it. That's how independent voices grow, one share at a time. And drop me a comment nearly 20 years later, who do you think actually won this feud? I read every single one. Let's talk about it down there. Stay sharp out there, stay loud, and I'll see you in the next one.